Hello, hello. This is Christina, your host today, and I'm so excited that today I have my special guest speaker, Annemarie Cross, far away from Australia. But Annemarie was a guest speaker once. She is the second time today on my for the second time a guest speaker. So Annemarie, welcome for the second time to my KSM podcast.
Oh, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, Christina.
And, I know that you podcast the Queen, because I heard about that. It was 12 years ago, for now. And can you introduce yourself and tell about you, who you are and what you do?
Oh, thank you. So, yes, I have had a podcast for many years. In fact, we started, and I say we because my very first podcast was a co-hosted podcast back in 2008. And back then I was working in the career industry. So working with executives and leaders, really helping them stand out in the marketplace so that they could find a job that they loved and that was fulfilling. And back in 2008, many of you may remember, that was when the global financial crisis hit around the world. And we found many people without jobs, and mainstream media, as mainstream media still continues to do, it is all about doom and gloom. So a colleague who was also working in the career industry at the time, we said we need to start a radio show or do something to bring a message of hope to the airwaves, because we knew things were difficult. We were working with a lot of executives who could not even apply for levels of jobs, at their level, and were going for junior type roles. And even then, it was just so competitive. And we knew that things needed to change in their approach to job search. So we started Career Success Radio, and we did that for 2 years. We knew not what we were supposed to do to how to create a show, but our passion and our mission to share that message of hope really drove us forward. And so when we stopped that show, because he left the career industry, as was I was transitioning out of helping executives more to helping entrepreneurs with their brand, with their message, with their positioning. So we decided that we would stop the show, but I continued to do podcasting. I love that medium. It was very new at the time. I would still have to, and for many years, tell people, what is a podcast? How do I listen to it? How do I access it? And and today, now, of course, podcasting, everybody knows what a podcast is, and it's certainly increased in listenership as well. And so now primarily I work with entrepreneurs, specifically coaches and consultants. I have a heart for coaches and consultants because I have been one, right from the word go with my business as a career coach. And I struggled for many years how to capture a message that really stood out, that was really me, that was authentic, and enabled me to really build connection with my ideal client. And that's what I continue to do today, is really helping coaches who feel like the world's best kept secret go from invisible to influential, trusted authority. If they want to start a podcast, and many of them don't necessarily want to, but they recognize that they have to build what I call your core business foundations, so that you really can position your message, your offering, your service, your expertise as a value add from a thought leadership position, a trusted authority. And that's what I continue to do today. And what's really exciting, just recently, my signature program, which is called Core Business Foundations, has been brought to, or is being brought to, India. One of my clients has had such success. She reached out, we spoke, and she said, look, I need to bring this to coaches here in India. And it's an expanding industry there. And so her, alongside India's, one of their premier coach certification training organizations, is bringing that to them so that they can continue to build their foundations as they're building their business. So that's what I do today. And again, branding, messaging, podcasting, all wrapped in one. It's certainly been a lot of fun.
And you work globally, so you coach and educate coaches and consultants how to create their and deliver their message to their audience, and about branding in terms of using podcasts as well. if
Yes.
if I'm on the right way. Is that correct?
Yeah. It's a wonderful medium. Some people don't necessarily want a podcast. However, they may want to be interviewed on podcasts, or they may want to write articles for magazines, or there's different ways they may want to speak. And so having a very clear, what I call unique, uncopyable and unforgettable brand and message is so important, particularly with so many more coaches, coming to the marketplace, which is wonderful because it's really shown that coaching is an incredible industry, and our ideal clients recognize the value of coaching. But if you've got a body of knowledge that as a coach can transform the life of your clients, but they're not hearing your message because it's not cutting through the noise, it can get very frustrating if you know that your work can change the lives of clients. And so, it's fun being able to support them so that they can have a message that stands out from the noise.
It was maybe now, 12 years ago now, let's say it's 2024. And through LinkedIn, I saw your profile and I connected. And for me, it was at that time podcasting. So I have to say that thankful to you and your profile. And when I was listening on podcast, you opened such a great opportunity for me to connect with such amazing entrepreneurs, ladies, gentlemen there in Australia. And now just imagine how it was that Australian language. It was for me a little bit, it's a little bit different, but for now it looks like, and I'm so thankful to you that I'm so present in Australian market, and it was the way how I connected with people. So thank you so much for that, and I appreciate it so much.
Congratulations for all that you have done, because I've seen, you regularly getting out there and networking, and you've got this incredible podcast. And that just thrills my heart when I hear that, because isn't that what it's all about? That we share a message. We may even help someone share their message through our platform. What you do, every week with your podcast, Christina, you have the ability to change lives through the stories that you have. You've got the ability to empower, to influence in a positive way. And one of the things that I always say, which is just so true, there is so much opportunity and abundance and business in the world for everybody to shine. And so, sometimes people will say to me, well, if I'm sharing all of my content on a podcast, or, allowing other people to come on my podcast and not sharing my message, doesn't that mean that I could be giving a lot of my IP away? And here's the thing with a coach, you could share everything that the steps that you take your clients through. You could put it in a book, you could share it on a podcast. The thing that really makes you that unique, uncopyable, and unforgettable, you could never give away in a podcast. You could share it on 1,000 podcasts. The things is that you need to show up, your clients need to show up, and the empowerment and the work that you do through the programs that you deliver and offer is what's going to really make a difference, that transformation. So, if someone's thinking about starting a podcast, but they're wary of sharing their message too much, that people will just take that and not necessarily hire them. That's not the case. It is such an incredible medium, I think, that allows, for connections and ongoing relationship building. And your podcast and you sharing today is exactly testament to that. So congratulations for the work that you've put in and
Thank
the
you. Thank you so
success that.
much. Either that English is my second language, but I'm super happy and I'm much more fluent talking to people all around the world. And for me, it was at that time something new for myself, especially English, my second language. Listen, that you need to think on that language as you share. If we share our story, if we share we're so authentic and we're unique in this world. So we can, what we do, we can just create a better place for living. I mean, and influence such other people, or making them happier, to encourage them to start their business. And through the online space, people wanted to see to see to hear your voice, to see your body language. And I think that in start, like, it was so audio, but now it's video, and we just feel that we're so in connection, and like shaking hands. And this is such a great opportunity to nurture a relationship, and have it for many years, and follow each other and help each other.
So true, so true. And you know, when we look at where the market is today and what's happening in the world today versus, you know, 15, 12 years ago, things are changing, as I'm sure everybody is familiar with. And I think now when we look at the changing, you know, workplace even, I think a lot of individuals need to start thinking about what I would call a portfolio career. This is not a term that I coined, something that we used many years ago in the career industry, where you don't just have one opportunity that you are involved in, like a paid job. You have multiple opportunities. And I think they will call that side gigs today. And I think that's so important, because if you think about, you know, AI and all of those other things that are coming to the fore, and a lot of roles now are kind of being phased out. This is where we need to think very innovatively and very strategically. What skill can I share? What skill do I have? Even if it's a small, minute, niched skill that can be valuable for someone else. Can I share that message in a podcast? Can I share that on YouTube, and then create this content and this valuable information, and then of course then lead people who want to know more to go and you know, to purchase a course or whatever it might be, some coaching around that. I think we need to be a lot more entrepreneurial in our way forward, and it may look like lots of different avenues rather than just one, you know, one main opportunity. So, and what greater way than we can share that around the world with technology and podcasting.
Yes, and this is so fantastic, as you mentioned, AI, and we need just to follow up such a new things and innovation, and be innovative. You know, this is a present moment what we need to follow. As you mentioned, that market is changed a lot in front of, let's say, to look back in before 10 or 15 years ago.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting because this weekend that has just passed, my husband and I drove about an hour away to a market, a farmer's market. And while we were there were all sorts of home businesses, from people who grew herbs, from people who were creating their own cheeses and their own herbal medicines. And there was a young lady there, and I didn't have the opportunity to speak with her, but she has a podcast. It's on YouTube, and she sews headbands, you know, the headbands that women wear and girls wear in their hair. And here's this young woman, she'd have to be late 20s, maybe early 30s, with this very successful business, leveraging a podcast to get her message out there. And so, you know, when you think, people will say, I don't have what it takes to create that. Here is a very simple idea of a headband. She's creative in that she's able to sew, and she captures that message and that content, and she shares that. And of course, then people know her, and as she goes to the different markets and so forth, you know, they have this connection with her because she shared an episode and shared a little bit behind the scenes or about what's going on in her life. So, you know, if you do it strategically, it doesn't matter whether you are, you know, this huge business or someone that is just making headbands. You know, you can build a successful business around that.
And you
It's
have
amazing.
opportunity that people hear your voice all around the globe. And in terms of podcasting, there are people who ask me, and this is a program what I'm going to create and develop in terms to how to run and start a podcast for your company, especially for leaders or business owners who will be a host. And there are also questions in terms of people ask me in terms of, maybe I asked you maybe in our last episode, it was maybe a few months ago or a year, I'm not sure for now, but in terms how to how people can monetize it. And there are people who want to just to create a podcast as a lead magnet that audience hear their voice, or just to have some kind of call to action, for example, that for your audience to put call to action. And this is a way how you can show up and people can connect with you and work with you in terms to connect, to just answer your call to action and say, okay, I would like to work with this person who
Yes.
runs that podcast.
Mm-hmm. Look, I think in answer to your question, all of those things are possible. And this is where you really need to, as a business, be very clear on what is the outcome that we want for this podcast. Now, it may be a number of different outcomes. For me, one of the things that I love to use my podcast for is to build connections with people that I may not necessarily have the opportunity to connect with were it not for my podcast. So I use that very much for relationship building. I also use it to showcase my channel and obviously your brand voice, and to have conversations around where your ideal client is interested in. So you have to be very clear on what is the end in mind. What is it that I want from this podcast? Do you want to generate leads from your podcast? And so the reason why you need to get really clear is because then you work backwards to put into place the different strategies that you know is going to support you. For instance, I'm just working with a wonderful business owner. She's an accountant, but she's an accountant who has got some very unique interests. And so it's been her unique interests and her unique business structure, because she's very much into sci-fi, and she loves Doctor Who. So that's really an area that she's passionate about. So we're positioning her to really work with creatives or businesses who really have an affiliation for those particular sci-fi and so forth. And so, from her business name, through her podcast name, through her intro, her outro, just some of the unique, what I call slogans and titles are all on brand, that has some sort of a theme within the sci-fi. So her ideal clients are people who will love all of the discussion and the talk about sci-fi. And, and so being able to be clear on what's the end in mind, the listener into lead, that's really important. But then your brand and your message, because as I said, there is so much business opportunity there for everyone. I'm through, like someone might say, oh, but don't you do podcast training? Yeah, I do. But I think it's wonderful, Christina, that you're doing it as well, because you're going to be able to reach a whole unique set of people who may not necessarily resonate with what I do. You might also decide to help other people who may be more local to you. You just don't know. As I said, there's so much business opportunity out there in the world. And so, it's really looking at what is my end in mind, who's my ideal client, what's my brand and message, and what things do I want them, your audience, to learn, and can I continue to weave that in? There's a reason why you need to get clear on that. And this is what happened to me for many years. I wasn't clear on what my end in mind was, where I wanted to lead people to, what theme that I wanted to have on my podcast. And my message got lost in the noise of my own podcast, because I had great guests who had great content. My podcast even won an award. However, I really felt that I hadn't really positioned myself and wasn't clear. And so I had to do a bit of a rethink and a reshuffle. Now my theme is very much experts, thought leaders, people who really have, made an incredible impact in their particular industry. What got them there? What tips and insights do they have? So there's this real theme of becoming this trusted authority in your industry. That's kind of that unique theme. But that's what I encourage people to do, is to sit down and really get clear on all of those things that they want from their podcast, so that they can implement, the right strategy to support them. Otherwise, as you know, there's a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of money, and even in time, your time is worth so much, it's valuable. So you don't want to invest a lot of time into putting out a podcast that doesn't have the results that you want because you haven't clearly thought out what is it that we want to achieve and how is that going to, how are we going to, support ourselves in achieving that? What do we need to have in place with our podcast? Does that help? Does that
Yeah,
answer?
it
Give you a bit
helps,
of it?
and this is so helpful for all our audience who will listen to the episode, because for all people, entrepreneurs who wanted to start podcast, because if they want to, what they need, and what would be outcome, and how to structure what they just want to expect of their, how are they going to put in place and say, okay, I would like to be a lead magnet, I would like to have sponsorship, I would like to raise my audience just to have much more membership or YouTube channel subscribers, so that's it either that, as you said, we need to know where we wanted to go with anything what we do, but we talk now about a podcast. And in terms of my guest speakers, there are many people who, or their VAs, send me email and say, I was listening on podcast, it's very helpful, I would like to have my I'm assistant of this and that person, or some business owners just connected to me, and I had maybe more than 10 guest speakers who just came to me while listening of their friends, that person was my guest speaker, and this is like a rolling coaster, and people come to me and from all around the world, and this is really fantastic, and I'm super happy with that. And this
Yep.
is how my podcast grows, which I'm so happy but also it's have much more obligation to be better and better in that, and invite such
Mm.
amazing guest speakers as so experienced as you are. And thank you
Oh,
for
well,
joining today. I'm super happy
oh,
with
look,
that.
my pleasure. My pleasure. I mean, as I said, I mean, I've seen just how much work that you put into it. And, a lot of people, when they start a podcast, it fizzles out after a while, because they haven't thought of all of those things. And that's why it's so important to continue for anybody, it's any business strategy or marketing strategy, isn't it? I have a formula and I call it my formula for success. And it's the letter C plus C over the letter T equals M. And I'll share what those things stand for. So C, the first C stands for clarity. You have to have clarity on who you are, your brand. You have to have clarity on your message. And your message is very much, what is it that's unique about what I am sharing, the unique content that I am sharing? Do I have a set of steps that I can share? And those set of steps have helped me overcome, struggles and challenges in my life and achieve success similar to what my ideal client is struggling with at the moment. And so if you can put those unique steps together in what I call a signature system, you're then able to shape your content around that, which means when you then go into the next C, which is consistency, you are consistently sharing a message that is unique, that is valuable, that your ideal clients aren't hearing anywhere else, because no one is speaking about the problems or challenges that your ideal client is facing in quite the way that you are. And because you've brought in this authentic brand and your style, you've got a unique style, Christina, in which you speak with guests, the way that you bring in humor or whatever it is that's unique about you. Those elements blended together consistently over the T, which is time, enables your listeners to go, I love the way Christina talks about that. I like the way that she guides her guest. I like the way that she shares some of the insights and ideas. And so when you continue to do that, the clarity, the consistency over time, you build the momentum that you need that will allow you to grow that successful business, successful podcast, because there is consistency there. You're building trust with your audience. Each time you interview guests, each time you are there sharing content, even on socials, you've got this consistency, this trust that's being built that people will eventually, and you've just confirmed that it's happening, people reach out to you and say, I love what you're doing, Christina. I'd like to do something like that in my industry or my business. Can you help me? That's often what happens, isn't it? And so you're doing exactly what that formula is.
Thank you. Thank you
And
so
so
much for recognize
clarity.
that.
Plus consistency, you're doing it over time. Because how long have you had your podcast for now?
It's about, 3 years. It was like a promo entrepreneur day, but last year at start 2023, I've done rebranding and that put in audio, and it was only video in my Facebook group. It was promo
Yes.
entrepreneur day, but for now, maybe I'm hosted more than 150 people. So but it's and my motto is be persistent, be consistent, be successful. And every single Friday I deliver audio and video in my group, so I have every single week one podcast. So, and this is consistency, which is in connection that 20 or top 20 by fifth spot, because in that was metrics, ages of podcast, consistency, time of one per week, and guest speakers also in content. So this
Yeah.
is what I
I
really
love that.
love to do.
I love your formula as well. But that is true, isn't it? You have to have that consistency. But if the people don't have, you did a rebranding, if people don't have a consistent message and they're all over the place, you can be consistently sharing a message that's confusing your ideal client. So the clarity piece is so important. So that's amazing.
And can you share about you? How do you help your clients and how people can reach out to you? And also maybe you can such a maybe free gift or whatever would be for our listeners. And we'll put all those information in your website and social media pages, how listeners can connect with you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Christina. So
My
if
pleasure.
people are feeling that they are invisible, they have been sharing their message, they've been marketing and doing all of the things that they see other businesses, successful businesses doing, but it's not landing for them and they don't know why. I've created a quiz that identifies 5 key pillars of things that businesses want to have in place to ensure that they do have that clarity, that consistency, so that when they do implement that over time, it's going to build the momentum that they need. So if they want to access that, it's a free quiz. Go to annemariecross.com/quiz. And there's they'll be taken to a page where they can access that quiz. So all they need to do is go through, there's some very simple questions around those 5 pillars. As part of that as well, I created a little bit of an email series which will share why each of these pillars are so important. And what I find that is so helpful for entrepreneurs and business owners, if we've got a problem in our business, we're very much, a lot of entrepreneurs, we're very problem solving minded. So in other words, if there's a problem, we want to fix it. The thing is, so often we end up fixing something that's not broken. Or I need to do webinars. Oh, I need to do podcasting. Oh, I need to do whatever, social media. I need to do more reels. But the thing is, if your message isn't working, starting a podcast isn't going to help you stand out from the crowd. Starting a podcast is going to amplify a message, but it's only going to amplify the message that's not working to more people. So you want to make sure that your message is right, that your branding is right, and those things. So annemariecross.com/quiz is a great place to start. And all of the things shared within that will give people an indication of how I can support them, because what we do in our programs is to help people ensure that all of those 5 pillars, which is so important, are in place in their business. So that's the best place to go.
Thank you so much. And I know that you're on LinkedIn, and if you wanted to get like a newsletter on LinkedIn, you can connect with Annemarie and you will get her newsletter from LinkedIn, because I got it every single time. I got your newsletter when you shared such amazing things. And also, who is your ideal client?
My ideal client
Before we ramp up the call today.
My ideal client is someone who feels that they really have a message and a mission, if you will, to make an impact in the world with their expertise. So they are a coach who maybe has been in business for a while and he wants to up level their brand, their message, their positioning, and ultimately their business results. So someone like that who has already been in business for a little while, but really needs to evaluate where they are so that we can build those core business foundations for the next level of their business. I love working with clients who have just at the start of their journey as well, still using that same program, Core Business Foundations, because often I find that coaches who have a certification or a new certification do have a body of work or a body of experience that they can bring into their coaching practice. And so being able to help them really establish from the get-go some clear foundations will ensure that they're able to build their business so much more successfully than, trying to do it on their own. So a coach or a consultant who's either been in business a while and ready to expand, or someone who is just beginning their business. I love both of those spectrums because ultimately, when you get the right foundations in place, you're able to help more clients have more success, and ultimately, that's going to impact the growth of your business as well.
And you have just can you share with us the name of your two podcasting, Ambitious Entrepreneur, I mean, and the other one is
Women in Leadership.
That's fantastic. So if you wanted to connect with Annemarie Cross, go to annemarie.com/quiz. And also this is her website. You can connect with Annemarie on Facebook, Annemarie Cross, on Instagram, on LinkedIn. Is that correct?
That is correct. Thank you.
I will put all those information. Annemarie Cross, it was such a pleasure talking to you today. I'm so excited. And thank you so much for joining for the second time. And we'll have you again in next episodes. Thank you so much. And I'm so excited and so happy to have you today as my special guest speaker.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been an honor.
Thank you so much and have a lovely day and see you very soon. And regards to your team and to your family and to your business partners and clients, and see you very soon again. Thank you and bye for now. Bye.